We found an untapped, unwatched saloon again in some murky downtown district to send another encoded message about RTD's interview with the SFX magazine. There it is. So, Time Agent Brendan checking in on my own saloon subwave network. I should say, Time Agent Brendan, former English teacher. Oh, okay. You knew who I was. Look, on today's saloon menu. Oh, yes, I've got a saloon menu now. Here we go. There we go. On today's menu, RTD finally says it. His mission was to win the fans back. Sutekh was his master plan. It had looked like Mission Impossible after the Timeless Children and the Chibnall years with failing ratings. So how could RTD get it so wrong? Which leads to another menu item if you wish to partake. RTD's Doctor Who radar, his antenna on what Doctor Who is and what makes good Doctor Who, is now very wonky, rusty, bent, broken. In this 4-page SFX interview, RTD tells us what he loves. When you hear his list of Doctor Who loves from his last series, you will see how wonky that antenna is now. Also on the menu, RTD is so flippant, so ill-planned, so light touch with his series planning now that he can't see inconsistencies in his answers over a 10-question interview. Sutekh woke up from sleeping on top of the TARDIS like Snoopy because of the Star Beast explosion, then says it was because Ruby's mum was so insignificant he needed to know why she was so important as a mystery. What? What? In another item, he seems more bothered about the in-jokes, like Susan Twist's name, the froth and campness of the show, than actually plot and detail. I'm a details man. I expect it from any boss earning a stack of money. But RTD's answers show he thinks of answers after the script and show has been made, that he's cobbling spin-offs and various ideas together last minute. He's overstretched, a man in a hurry, like some human dodgem car crashing into all the furniture, aimless and lost. But good news, positive news at last, fellow saloon customers. Season 2, RTD promises more robots, more aliens, and some cracking dialogue between Mrs. Flood and Ruby Sunday. God, how peripheral is that? So, please, come on then, before we have the meal, because it's going to come now, click on the notifications for future saloons and shows of mine. Be kind enough to give us a subscription. It doesn't pay for the meal, but it keeps me in the good books with him indoors. And if you want, email us any topics, or if you want to be on the panel, just send them to sense3@gmail.com or DM me on X. Right. Should we start digesting the menu? Right. I promised you this. To help the news go down and help your palate, does knowing what RTD loved about season 1 make you feel any better? Call this a delicious starter. I mean, look at this. RTD loves puns like J&T used for the Master. Like for part 4 of Castrovalva, J&T had in the Radio Times Neil Toynay instead of Anthony Ainley, so it didn't give away the Master reveal. Oh, what a wheeze. Well, RTD loves that sort of thing. He actually says, I love it. Don't we all love it? Well, yes, it didn't give it away, but I have to say, I wasn't buying the Radio Times. What sort of middle-class person did you think I was? Do you know, not everybody was doing that. And yes, we saw the credits, but I have to say, I wasn't perusing the credits. I just enjoy Doctor Who. I don't kind of, take screenshots of the credits and have to kind of analyze it to death. Oh, it's almost a clever in-joke. Now we've learned what JNT did. But that's it. That is it. But no, that RTD did it as well with Susan Twist and Sutekh. So clever. And that was his second love. He loves Susan Twist. Now, I don't know if he's just saying the actress, but he loves Susan Twist. And he loves this idea that she's in the role and she was playing Susan Technology. He called it that. Do you know, when he says he loves something, he's patting himself on the back. I thought Bad Wolf said in that Imagine documentary, which me and Hugh reviewed, and you can see the recent one with the Real Exposed RTD program. I thought Bad Wolf scoffed at the pantomime, light entertainment, jokey feel of late 80s Doctor Who. And here we're all having a laugh. Oh, aren't we good? So, I don't know if they listen to themselves. I mean, even in an echo chamber, doesn't the echo bounce back? He also said he loved the Chulda cosplaying story in Rogue. All right, well, I'm glad somebody did. Yes, he loved it. You understand what the aliens are doing. That's why it was such a good story, because instead of them being Zog aliens, because they were dressing up like Bridgerton, we understood what cosplay is. I call it fancy dress myself. Do you know what, RTD? As a Doctor Who fan, I understand invasions, space plagues, takeovers, mind kind of hypnosis, and all the rest of it. I actually understand them as well. I don't need to see aliens cosplaying and looking stupid. Unbelievable. Oh, and by the way, folks, he loved the ending of season one with Ruby's mum. Yeah, he loved it. I thought it was soap opera myself. But there you go. He loved it. He thought it just did everything right. He also loved Ruby with all the women at the end. So we had this a great picture of Grandma, Mam, Ruby, Natural Mam. It was this lovely maternal hub at the end of season one. I do recall, do you, Peter Davison lamenting, where are the working class white role models for boys now? Yes, I don't think RTD got the memo, Peter, on that one. Um, by the way, RTD loves the camp ending to season one as well, where Mrs. Flood stood on the top, dressed a bit Romana-ish, a bit Mary Poppins-ish, with a view of London that you couldn't replicate because they've done special effects and they've moved all the landmarks. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Bad Wolf doesn't want to do a light entertainment showbiz panto 1980s Doctor Who, but we did the campus ending in the season. Right, okay. They're not getting any of their own memos at the moment. And of course, he's very proud of um, Ruby's mum and her role in the plot. It's very Last Jedi. Very proud of that. Oh, yes. Um, he does it all the time. I've just been watching Journey's End and Stolen Earth. The Children of Time were the important people in it. How many times is the companion very important to the Doctor Who resolution? He's done it before and before and before. So don't say, oh, I love this too. Yeah, you just love your own ideas, mate. So if this is our starter, our menu starter in this downtown saloon, it does make you feel unsure and uncertain about the chef now, doesn't it? What does he love? I didn't digest a lot of that meal. In fact, I've left a lot of that still on the plate. I mean, what will the main course be like? What will season two be like? Oh, I think we better get on. So, SFX Magazine's September issue. Now, his main discussion it's only 4 pages, 10 questions, 4 pages. In this interview in SFX Magazine for September, his main dish, let's be honest, is that he crafted season one to grab and entice Doctor Who fans back. Right, I'm just letting that land for a second. Right, okay. So his mission, his top mission with season one and the specials was to get the fans back. Right, let's go big. I'll just remind you of the stats there. But as you know, some trolls say, right? So I'll use what the trolls prefer. Now, take a look at this. And yes, there's a lot to glean there, but just take a quick look. Okay, the overnights, remember, the overnights is for us baddies, us dinosaur Doctor Who fans. It went from 2.6 million with Space Babies to 2.25 million by the season end. That's a drop of 350,000. Okay, we're not happy with that one. Keep trolling me. What about the 7 days? We went from 4.01 million to 3.69 million, a drop of 320,000 people. So again, we've had a drop of 350,000 if it's overnights, 320,000 if it's a 7 days. But those trolls say it's the 28 days, Brendan. It's the 28 days. Get with the script. Okay, then I will. Oh, have I got with the script? It goes from 5.6 million to 4.4 million. That's a 1.2 million drop for the people who prefer this. So let's do the stats then. Here's our next meal. Do you like my plates? So on the overnights, his mission was to get people back, and we dropped to the audience by 14% over a season. Okay, then on the 7 days, the views dropped by 8% over the season. Oh, but isn't this a delish? I'm eating this one. I'm digesting this one, folks. On the 28-day measure, which they all seem to love nowadays, the audience dropped between Space Babies and Empire of Death by 21.5%. Right. Eat that one. Digest that one, everybody. Those streamers like me who have been just dealing with the facts, no agenda. I actually was applauding RTD at the beginning before all this started. I'm sorry, the facts speak for themselves. Now, people said the overnights are not important. Okay, dismiss that one. The 7 days aren't important, right? Dismiss the middle one. The 28 days are more important nowadays, right? Okay, then 21.5%. Right. So, what does that mean? That he's failed? Let's just say that. He's failed? Unbelievable. So, there you go. His mission was to do that. Now, where's the evidence of that? I'll put it on the big screen for you. Okay, so he said he wanted to bring fans back, and he hasn't. That's obviously an acknowledgement that Chris Chibnall had crashed the TV program on the ratings front. He says he's aware fans abandoned the show. That is the words there on the left, not me. I'm not being the drama queen. The showrunner. You see, this is it. We've had a season where people have been trolling and criticizing and saying we are just trying to do clickbait. No, sorry, you've got the sensory wrong. I just deal with facts. Now the showrunner has said people who probably abandoned Doctor Who. I assume he's saying the Chris Chibnall era. I'm assuming he's meaning the Jodie Whittaker era. I'm assuming he's hinting at the Timeless Children. There's an acknowledgement, folks. And he also says that any links with the big streamer like Disney might have been unpopular with some fans. So it's a big acknowledgement that he knows that he's got he's got Mount Everest to climb, and so his job is to get the fans back. And so his decision, as you'll see on the right there, is we needed to bring back a great big old enemy to show that this is Doctor Who is the same show as before. Now I find this really rich, because he has gone on, Shooty has. Jane Tranter has, Julie Gardner has in interviews, and RTD has, and said, oh, they've made heavy work of the word regeneration and heavy work of the word change. Look at all their interviews. Look at half my saloons in the past going through all those interviews. It's all about change. Doctor Who's all about change. If you understand Doctor Who, it's always been changing. And so they've really rammed that message home. And now in this article, which, by the way, he gave this interview just after the Empire of Death was shown, so he's very aware of people's criticisms, he says he wanted to show this is the same show as before. Now, we have all argued that Sutekh was extremely different, so that doesn't work, does it? That doesn't land. But I have to say, folks, I'm detecting a change in tone by our showrunner, because before they were quite kind of antagonistic and objectionable, really. And now they're saying, we needed the fans back. We wanted them back. We wanted to show them this is the same show as before. He even says, can you see in the middle there, he says, that's not for me now. Fans who said this show's not for me. So in other words, they really did walk away in the Chibnall era. If we moved away from Doctor Who and then say, oh my God, Sutekh, I'll come back. And then look at those two words. Surely there will be some pickup. Surely some people will come and look because Sutekh's back. And then he says, it's not my words, folks. So that was a very deliberate policy to kind of say to anyone who might have wandered away from the show, come back and look at this. There you go, folks. RTD, His job was to get the fans back. He wanted to prove it was the same show. He knows that Chris Chibnall's obviously, crashed the blooming program. And we've also looked at the fact that the ratings have proven that he failed on that mission. Right? Let me just say that quite clearly. Okay, then, RTD, that was your plan. You have failed. On your 28-day measure, you have failed. And yet he's written season 2 now. He's been writing a lot of season 3 already. Is anyone checking his homework or just taking the money? Surely you don't need to visit Logopolis to work this one out. A simple abacus would do. 1.2 million drop over the season on the 28 days. 21.5% of the audience lost. And that was his mission. He says himself. Shocking. Shocking. So when people say, "Oh, you just criticizing?" No, we're saying that something has changed in the show. So he moves on. I remember, if his big plan was to get the fans back, notice all my highlights in blue. That's the key here, right? I'll come back to the various other things. So he then says, in winning the fans back and understanding what a Doctor Who fan wants. So if you go to the bottom there, he talks about Susan Technology played by a woman called Susan Twist. I love that. Like a show for the modern age. It will get people talking about it. Well, yes. I think I did a stream where we were trying to guess from the trailer. As you know, I predicted Sutekh would come back because I hadn't worked out the Sutekh bit, but I'd done other workings out. Anyway, he thinks doing that clever little J&T word pun would get us all talking. Well, we were all guessing who might come back, but I think that was classic fan stuff. I wasn't really looking at his wording. But of course, he says he understands the fans. So if you look at the blue here, when he talks about Rogue, because he was asked about, would you ever do the Zog aliens from the planet Zog? Remember his 2005 interview. And he says, no. It's always been my attitude towards Doctor Who. So he talks about these cosplaying children and says that would help the audience access and understand these aliens, and therefore they're not from the planet Zog anymore. They're okay. But then he says in the middle there, I think that's the way to turn off viewers, is to actually have children just chuntering on a planet of birds saying, we will now invade planet Earth. So he's saying he thinks he knows what turns viewers off. He's just had a season where he's turned viewers off. One of the episodes that really did turn viewers off, statistically, was Rogue. And the reason was it wasn't Doctor Who anymore. The reason was it wasn't actually doing what Doctor Who programs normally do. The Doctor's character wasn't the Doctor's character that had been in the previous 60 years. It wasn't a Doctor Who episode with a Doctor Who character who cared for his Doctor Who companion. And this is the man who says, oh, if you have somebody from the planet Zog, or the children were saying we want to invade Earth and they're all there on their bird planet, people would turn off. Right. Well, this is going well, RTD. Your plan's really working. Your antenna, your Doctor Who radar is really working here, because obviously the fans did turn off in their droves. So do you want to check your antenna? Do you really want to check whether you've got this right? We then have, since he understands fans and he wants the fans back, he says that with each season, I promised answers in the season, and it was always going to be resolved. I just get annoyed when things like that go on over into another season. He gets annoyed as a fan of other shows. So shall I just say the words Mrs. Flood? That's not been resolved. Shall I say the words Susan Foreman? There's 2 for starters, unresolved, but played with and teased all season. And in this interview, he does say, oh, you'll learn a lot more about Mrs. Flood. But haven't you just said that things should be resolved at the end of the season because it's annoying? And he understands fans. And so what he's just done is not deliver. The inconsistencies are incredible. Absolutely incredible. So we have to wait till next year, as he says. Look in blue again. I promise you next year, great answers to that, great solutions. So I understand fans. It's very annoying if nothing's resolved in the season. So what I've done is not resolve Mrs. Flood until next year. This man makes so much sense. This man says he understands Doctor Who, and in one of the bigger episodes like Rogue, turns so many people off. And in a season, because he understands fans, and remember, his modus operandi was, I will bring back a great big enemy. I will bring Sutekh back. And that will get the fans talking. That will get the fans back. That'll get the ratings up. 1.2 million people disappear later. He hasn't, the antenna RTD is not working. Let's just be honest here. Honest boss time. So all these inconsistencies come into play. And as I said in my menu at the beginning, here we go again. Inconsistencies. So let's take a look at some of his inconsistencies. You see, RTD strongly gives hints. He makes it up as he goes along. In interviews in Unleashed, in video commentaries, and interviews afterwards, he suggests answers that were not in the script. He's not showing care, due diligence, respect for the integrity of this show. He's like a man on the run, racing through ideas with a flippancy and lightness of touch that leaves no mark on the consciousness of the nation. For example, take a look here. And we're talking about Sutekh. So if you look in the red in particular, okay, I absolutely don't want to create any sort of mythology in which it is said that Sutekh was guiding the TARDIS for all those years. I just don't believe that at all. I think it needed the explosion that was big enough at the end of the Star Beast when the TARDIS kind of goes mad and blows up. That's kind of what woke Sutekh up, right? So let's talk about his consistency of the man running our show and hopefully showing due diligence. Okay, so the Star Beast explosion was big enough in the Star Beast to wake Sutekh up. Because remember, I was showing you him earlier sleeping on his kennel like Snoopy. Didn't the Big Bang in Castrovalva wake him up? Didn't the Crucible burn in his backside in Stolen Earth and Journey's End? Didn't that wake him up? There's two examples, and I know there's others. Did he not get a painful splinter with the broken up TARDIS in Frontiers? He's making it up as he goes along. This wasn't in the script. You know, show me this gear in the script. By the way, I'll show you the script. So he says, I don't want the mythology to show that Sutekh was guiding the TARDIS since 1975. Okay, then, let's look at the Empire of Death script. Okay? So the white words there is as the shooty doctor saying, I saw you die. I sent you forward to your own death. And then Sutekh says, instead, I found a home. I clung to your infernal machine, and for so many years, I hid. I'm trying to work out why the god of death would hide when he's got control of the TARDIS. But anyway, I have travelled with you for all this time, riding the spine of your ship, staring into eternity and evolving into my true godhood. Now I know every beat of the heart of your time machine, and I can bend it to my will. Okay? It will stand as my altar, the temple of my empire of death. Never yours again, Doctor. And I saw inside the TARDIS so many secrets. Her name, Susan, the perfect trap. I created an apparition of her universally. Every time we landed on every single world, I birthed them all, my angels of death. So I want to challenge the consistency of all this lot. RTD, knowing he's been criticised over the Sutekh thing now, although the Sutekh was the plan to get all the fans back, remember? So I'm trying to get the fans back with Sutekh. The fans have all gone mad about how I've brought back Sutekh. Uh-oh, I better explain myself slightly. Right, first of all, on the trap of Susan, if he understands the TARDIS and he saw all the secrets, because, he is a god after all, Sutekh would know Susan Foreman. And all he would have to do is an avatar of one Susan Foreman as a perfect trap to get the Doctor back. By the way, does he need to trap the Doctor when he controls the blooming TARDIS? If he's been controlling the TARDIS, or could have, since 1975, doesn't he just entomb the Doctor in there? Why do you need Susan Twist avatars everywhere? It doesn't make any logical sense. If you want to kill the Doctor, you control his TARDIS and he's inside. That's easy. Oh, he's going to try and eject the Zero Room to get away from the Big Bang in Castrovalva. I'll just press a few buttons on the TARDIS machine and make that scuppered, and I'll make sure they die. This makes no sense. He could have killed him any time since 75, really. That's how he's destroyed it. So again, very inconsistent. And I don't understand how he is just sitting on the TARDIS. Just literally just sitting on the TARDIS. That's it. Makes no sense. What, he doesn't want to kill? He doesn't want to do anything? So an inconsistency there. Then, of course, he uses the dismissal of the Egyptian paraphernalia by some weak argument saying, let's be honest, Sutekh changed shape to about 3 forms in Pyramids of Mars, so I decided it's going to be a jackal. You're going to bring back the greatest enemy, he says, of Doctor Who, to show it's the same show, and also use Gabriel Wolf's voice, and you will put a big 3 dimensional CGI'd jackal hugging, rubbing against the TARDIS. And then he just has that weak argument about it. He dismisses it as cultural appropriation. Stop being so divisive. I have to say, these arguments like cultural appropriation, it is division. We're all people of the planet and we share the planet, and therefore we can share and embrace other people's customs to show our share and respect of that planet. Surely that's the way you do it. You don't divide into you can't use that, you can't cosplay that. The third Doctor would follow draconian customs to be polite. He was well travelled. Is disguise, when the Doctor disguises or dresses up to evade capture, is that acceptable? Because that's still cultural appropriation, isn't it? It's a rabbit hole, a flight of fancy by RTD. Just why bother? In Rogue, the cosplay and shoulder were culturally appropriate in Regency period. But no comment there, of course, because it's fun. It's absolute nonsense. Stop the inconsistency. And I will go on. In the whole argument about the Empire of Death is the memory TARDIS was invented for that story. And then he just quickly thinks, oh, I can use it for other tales of the TARDIS. And he thinks of that 18 months later, he says in the interview. So basically, this is all back of fag packet planning. It's all superficial, light touch. This means this means this. It's all easy, fast logic. A bit like the Empire of Death finale, where death to death brings life. He's actually plotting a whole season like that. This can do this, and then I'll have that memory tied to that. Then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. Then I'll spin a. Do you want to sit down and really plot it? Remember how? Do you remember how Connie Booth and John Cleese used to plot Faulty Towers all over their walls? Yeah, and didn't it show in the tightness of the comedy in the plot? But that's if you respect your viewers. Another inconsistency, oh yes, I'm on it, is this whole idea of clinging to the TARDIS. Sutekh clings to the TARDIS. He even uses the word in the script, he hid. Thinking one day I'm just going to make some Susan Twist avatars, and then that'll trap the Doctor, even though he's trapped under my control now, if I so wished. And then he goes on about there was something kind of omniscient riding the TARDIS, and suddenly that stopped when he saw her, this woman of insignificance, Ruby's mum. Blather, blather, blather. This makes no sense. I have to say, this whole idea of a god as a jackal just hugging the TARDIS is very problematic for me. And RTD, with his obsession with, LGBT, makes me think of the Eurovision. Yeah? Can you remember that in the Eurovision? So Sutekh hugging the TARDIS is a little bit like, if you're not sure where I'm going on this one, let's try another one. Sutekh hugging the TARDIS. It's I don't know, it's almost pornographic, isn't it? Hugging the TARDIS. I'm astride of the TARDIS. My crotch is warm in the TARDIS. Do you see where I'm going here? One more. I'm hugging the TARDIS for all these years. Honestly, we know that he's got an obsession with sink plungers. We know that from Children in Need. Yeah, he even made the David Tennant Doctor put the sink plunger on the Dalek. But these are the only sink plungers I'm interested in, Doctor Who. not the "Yippity-yippity, I'm astride of the TARDIS all these years. My God, cherish the thought. So let me get this right, RTD, with all this genius thinking and John Cleese's level of planning of a season to bring back the viewers. You're wanting to make comments and slights about Sutekh wearing Egyptian paraphernalia and that being problematic and that being cultural appropriation. But a giant dog warming his crotch on the TARDIS, the audience will find that very human. Remember, the Chulda cosplaying is very human and we will understand them. But a jackal and its crotch warming the TARDIS, we will understand much more than the Pyramids of Mars iteration of Sutekh. Oh, you're on the pulse, I tell you, RTD. I do think he's been watching too much Eurovision. My example is there. That's not humanity. It's not humanity. Pleasuring himself on the TARDIS all those years. Does the TARDIS have a window cleaner? I do sometimes wonder. It makes you think some dodgy things. So there you go. A bit of mirth there to say I have no respect for where you are going with this, RTD. None at all. So let's finish off the article. I promised you a lot more in the menu. So here we go. He says, of course, another one of his loves was, and he was so proud of it as well, is obviously he was triggered and inspired by the Last Jedi and how Rey there. She had been insignificant, then she was made more significant, and he thought that was a mistake. And he thinks she should be just this little kid who found the Force and all the rest of it. And he wanted Ruby Sunday to be just the same. Oh, God. I mean, how many times does he want to be inspired by something else rather than just have an idea himself? I've got a very strong argument. Doctor Who started in 1963, pioneering television sci-fi. It really did. It was nothing like Star Trek. It was nothing like Lost in Space. It was very different, very quintessentially British, very eccentric, and very imaginative. The bigger on the inside concept, the chameleon circuit broke, and that sort of thing was outstanding. And that was not copying or being triggered, maybe just slightly inspired by other time machine shows, but that was it. But now we are troubled with RTD, who wants to copy or emulate Buffy, Strange New Worlds, The Last Jedi. Space Babies was basically an Aliens ending. Rogue was Bridgerton. We've had the Pyramids of Mars finale done his way. We've had Years and Years done in 73 yards. We've had the Genesis of the Daleks inspiring Boom. Can we just have some new material, please, from somebody with all these ideas, darling? I just think he's, and to be honest, when you read the 4 pages of his article, he's too bothered about mirth and humor and puns and froth. And if you look at another part of this article, he says halfway down the right-hand side, it says all these jokes about who's playing what actor and, the fans love it. He says it's all become part of the language of the show. How pretentious is that? He says, I don't want the Doctor to come across as pompous. It might be nice if the showrunner doesn't sound pompous as well. It's become part of the language of the show. What, doing word puns? He says himself, John Nathan Turner started it. Wasn't done before then. Everybody else just took the show seriously and got on with it. We know why John Nathan Turner was doing it. He just didn't want to give away anybody in the plot. And actually, he did very well with Earthshock, for example. That's it. He wasn't teasing the audience. He was just trying to hide the surprise. That's different from RTD. He just likes to tease us all. And then he says it's all part of the language of the show. Bogeymen played by actual bogies. Oh, do me a favor. This is just... Look, if you want to talk about part of the language of the show, what about Behind the Sofa? What about cliffhangers? What about escapism? What about an alien hero? There you go. There's some tips from me. Now give us your £1,000,000. This is the problem. He waffles on. I mean, going on about the fans, he waffles on about the gap, the 6-month gap as perceived between Space Babies and Devil's Cord. And he says, oh, well, I'm just trying to establish some sort of temporal drift as you go into the TARDIS to try and explain the unexplainable, because as you know, the script did not explain it. So he waffles on about establishing this temporal drift if you travel in the TARDIS. But throughout the article said most people would not realise there was a 6-month gap between Space Babies and Devil's Cord. So why is he bothering? RTD often gives the impression that it hasn't been thought through, but he thinks on his feet, throws an answer in Unleashed or an interview, but he failed to apply thinking in the actual script. That's lazy. Not much true thought going into each script. It means he's overstretched. It means he's rushing. The man who had no ideas left in 2010, he said that, is scripting the spin-off. 6 of the 8 season 1 scripts. 3 specials. The Christmas 2023. Yeah? Let me just show you again. I got this yesterday. There's the showrunner saying that they've just done the read-through of the legend. Sorry, I keep saying the legend. The War Between the Land and the Sea. And if you could zoom in even further on the script at the bottom there, it actually says by Russell T Davies, the script. So he's writing other scripts now. He's overstretched. We've got too many examples where he's thinking of solutions after the script has been broadcast. That's worrying. And let's go back to the most worrying statistic of all. He has acknowledged he wanted to bring back the viewers, and he didn't do that, and the statistics show it. So it's a very interesting SFX article, actually. Like I said, it's only 4 pages. It's a September issue. So, Time Agent Brendan is checking out. That meal did not go down very well. Some problematic undigested potato, as Scrooge would say. If only I could have enjoyed eating a well-prepared meal, as the 5th Doctor eulogised to the cyber leader in Earthshock. Till the next time, give us a sub.